Texas Tech finishes out the regular season slate with a bang, out in the desert, with an 85-57 win over the Arizona State Sun Devils. In today's video, we'll look ahead to the Big 12 tournament and where Texas Tech is seated and who they may face on Thursday at 6 p.m. on either ESPN or ESPN2. Plus, we'll look at the last Big 12 standings as well as the latest metrics for your Red Raiders, including, is Texas Tech firmly in the driver's seat to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament? That and much more. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And man, what a fun regular season that was for Texas Tech. I had high expectations for this team. I know a lot of y'all did too. But being picked to finish, seventh, I believe, in the Big 12 and finishing outright second, pretty damn good year for year number 2 of Grant McCasland out in the 806. But we're going to recap the game. But before we do, I want to hear from you guys from the NCAA tournament perspective. Okay? Texas Tech, again, finishes outright second place in the Big 12. Do you think they should be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament? Just a simple Y for yes or N for no. We'll discuss some of the teams that are kind of in that same range as Texas Tech and why I think it really comes down to only 2 teams, Texas Tech and another school, for that final 2 seed. We'll discuss that, but I want to hear, before we get into that and recap this Arizona State game, do you think Texas Tech should be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament? Just a simple Y for yes or N for no. All right. This one was interesting from a lot of standpoints in the sense that, listen, Arizona State did not have a lot of their players in this game. We'll just go ahead and say that outright. They were without Jaden Quainitz. They were without another starter. They had already let BJ Freeman go. They dismissed him from the team, and he was their leading scorer on the year. I mean, you look at their team, and they were really only playing about 5-6 guys, it felt like. You had 2 guys in Sanon and also Mason that damn near played the whole game for the Sun Devils. But Texas Tech took advantage. They didn't play down to their competition, at least in the second half, where the Red Raiders just absolutely demolished Arizona State, going on a 35-13 run with about 12 minutes to go in this game. JT Toppin led the way in this one for the Red Raiders with another double-double, 25 and 11. He's just an automatic stud, man. He's so good. We'll look at just the Texas Tech stats on your screen right now. Of course, Christian Anderson, he had about I want to say about 35-footer to end the first half, and it felt like, okay, there's the momentum Texas Tech needed in the second half, and the Red Raiders did just that, almost putting up a 50-piece on the Sun Devils in the second half. And really, Texas Tech didn't even shoot too well. They just dominated in every aspect of the game from there on out. I mean, you look at it from the perspective of Texas Tech, they had 16 assists in this game to only 2 turnovers. You're going to win a lot of basketball games when you only turn the ball over twice, but also you're moving it around and making it damn near impossible to know who's shooting the next shot. Kerwin Walton, he seems to be getting back on track, 3 for 7 from 3. That is a welcome sight for the Red Raiders. He was one of 3 players in double figures for the Red Raiders alongside Christian Anderson and JT Toppin. I mentioned Christian Anderson. I'm losing, the words to describe how good this guy is as a true freshman. I tweeted out during the game yesterday, when I grow up, I want to be Christian Anderson, and I truly mean it. I truly, truly mean it. He is a bona fide superstar freshman. Diaper dandy. Shout out to Dickie V, right? But JT Toppin more than solidified himself last night. I think it was already wrapped up, but last night he definitely put the cherry on top of the sundae in terms of, if he's not the Big 12 player of the year, we need to have a discussion about who the fuck these voters are. We really, really do, because he has been the biggest game changer in a world where you have to think about this. How many hit and misses are there in the portal in terms of bigs, right? Think about Kansas, right? Hunter Dickinson, he's been okay. And I mean, he had 30 plus on senior night up there, but he hasn't lived up to expectations. You look around the country and there's been numerous other bigs that in the portal have not lived up to expectations in this past portal cycle. And then there's JT Toppin, who really doesn't say much, but he hoops. I mean, he's just a hooper, right? And he deserves to be Big 12 Player of the Year. And if he's not, it's absolutely ridiculous. Texas Tech had 32 points off the bench last night, 30 points in the paint. I mean, they trailed this game for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, basically, 2:28 to be exact. I mean, they just flat out dominated this game. There's really no other way to say it. Specifically in the second half, they did anything they wanted to and got any shot they wanted to. Arizona State felt the wrath of Texas Tech when they are really going at it defensively to end that game. Arizona State ended this game 1 for 12 from the field, okay? You're going to win a lot of games when you do that if you're Texas Tech. You shot 45% from the field, 36% from three, and 85% from the line. You were aggressive, not only from the outside, but also getting to the rim. I thought this was one of those games where early on Tech played down to their competition. That was frustrating a little bit, but Texas Tech got the memo at halftime, and they just utterly obliterated Arizona State. Again, a 35-13 run to end this game from the 12-minute mark on. I mean, they just flat out dominated. All right, let's look at the Big 12 standings in this one because it's interesting from the standpoint of, again, Texas Tech finished outright second place in the Big 12, okay, which means they will be the 2 seed in the Big 12 tournament. Who will they play? We'll look at that here in just a second. But looking at the standings, Houston finished number 1. Only lost to your Red Raiders at home. Then you had BYU. That win just continues to get better and better for Texas Tech. Arizona finishes 4th, or tied for 3rd, I should say. Iowa State finishes 5th. Kansas finishes 6th. Baylor and West Virginia finish tied for 7th down there. Now, the interesting part of this is the Big 12 tournament. And as you can see on your screen right there, it's a little hard to see, but I'll read it to you. Texas Tech is the 2 seed, as I mentioned. They are scheduled to play in the 11th game of the tournament, which is Session 6, which is scheduled for Thursday at 6 p.m. They will either play on ESPN or ESPN2. They will play the winner of the Baylor matchup in either Kansas State or Arizona State. Okay, so Kansas State and Arizona State play on Tuesday in game number 3. The winner of that game will play Baylor the next day on Wednesday, March 12th, and the winner of that game between Baylor and either Arizona State or Kansas State will play Texas Tech on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. out in Kansas City. What's also nice for Texas Tech, I talked about this as I get back on screen fully here, like I wanted to avoid Kansas if possible in that first matchup that you had, because this is just an extenuation of Lawrence. I mean, Lawrence and Kansas City are literally like an hour away, right? So Texas Tech doesn't have to deal with the home court advantage that Kansas would have there, and they inevitably do every year, right? So now you get to play a potential Baylor team, or you get to play Arizona State for the second time in a week, or Kansas State, okay? So a little bit better there. And yes, I know Kansas State could have a home court advantage too, but they don't seem to travel as much to Kansas City as the Jayhawks do, okay? And rightfully so in a large degree. But Texas Tech, when it comes to the metrics after this game against Arizona State, this is where things get a little interesting, okay? You look at it, Texas Tech is still 7th in KenPom. They still fit the criteria to be a national title contender, which is top 21 offensive rating and a top 31 defensive rating. Texas Tech 7th in offensive rating, 27th in defensive rating. So they fully are in that criteria to win the national title. Now, what's also interesting is in the net, well, it lines up exactly for Texas Tech. Texas Tech is 7th in the net as well with 8 quad 1 wins. UCF didn't do too many favors there yesterday. Or not UCF, excuse me. We scrolled down here a little bit, and it is TCU didn't do any favors as they got obliterated yesterday. Did the Horned Frogs by Colorado. Good for the Buffs getting another Big 12 victory. But that would have put Texas Tech at 9 quad 1 wins. Instead, they lose a quad 1 win because of how bad TCU lost out in Boulder, but Texas Tech still has 8 quad 1 wins. Now, I want y'all to look at this real quick, and there is a name that I want y'all to pay attention to real fast, and that is St. John's. Right now, if you had to ask me who are the 2 teams fighting for that final 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, again, a lot can change going into conference tournament week, right? But who are the 2 teams fighting for that? It's St. John's and Texas Tech. You look at the current resume, St. John's obviously has more wins than Texas Tech. They're 27-4. They're 8-2 on the road. Texas Tech is also 8-2 on the road, 1-2 when it comes to neutrals. Both are the same there. Wins against the bubble. St. John's is at 10. Texas Tech is at 13. But here's where things get interesting. Texas Tech has 8 quad 1 wins compared to 4 by St. John's. Okay. Getting back fully on the screen here, to me, both teams are deserving to be the final 2 seed, okay? And for those that are trying to figure out the math here, I think you've got the ones are pretty squared away, and I think most of the 2s are as well. You've got Auburn, Duke, Alabama, you've got Florida, Tennessee, Michigan State, right? You've got those teams up there. And you look at it from the sense of, okay, you've got that wrapped up. And obviously, I forget Houston. I should mention Houston up there. Those are the 7 teams that are ahead, right? In the sense that, okay, those are the teams that are solidified themselves as either a 1 or a 2 seed, right? Those are the teams. So that leaves 1 2 seed open. If you look strictly at resume, Texas Tech is more deserving, in my opinion. That being said, I also understand that subconsciously there is a Rick Pitino effect in this. Period. And if you don't want to acknowledge that, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. There is a factor here in the sense that St. John's is arguably the best story in college basketball this year, in the sense that they've really been irrelevant for a while now. They go out and get a Hall of Fame coach in Rick Pitino, one of the best college coaches of all time, right? And in a year where the Big East is pretty solid, right? It's no Big 12 by any stretch of the imagination, but it's also not the ACC. They're really good. They lost 2 games. They won at the buzzer yesterday at 20 Marquette. Like, I mean, they're a really good team. I really think this comes down to, in my opinion, Texas Tech holds the lead in this, right? If Texas Tech can win 1 game in the Big 12 tournament and St. John's does not win the Big East tournament, I think Texas Tech gets it. But if St. John's wins both the regular season Big East title and the postseason, i.e. the Big East tournament, I think they get the 2 seed. I think it's really that simple to me. Maybe I'm just looking at this from a very simple point of view. But I think that that's where it is right now in terms of where Texas Tech is. I think Texas Tech is either going to be the final 2 seed or the first overall 3 seed. Does it matter much? I mean, maybe. It depends on the draw, right? I think it tends to matter. But we'll see. At the end of the day, there's still quite a bit of basketball left, and the next game that we'll see Texas Tech play will be on Thursday against either Arizona State, Kansas State, or Baylor. Baylor being the heavy favorite in that one, as they are the 7 seed. Texas Tech is the overall 2 seed after they finished second in the Big 12 regular season standings. And the Red Raiders did so by beating Arizona State 85-57. Just a demolishing out in the desert, specifically in the second half, where the Red Raiders almost put up a 50-burger on Bobby Hurley's squad. All right, that's going to do it. I will say this. We will have a live selection Sunday show here on the channel. It is another reason for you to like the video, hit that subscribe button for 100% free daily Texas Tech videos here on the channel. I mean, this is the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube. You can't beat it, right? We have over, 11,000 subscribers. Y'all are commenting here on YouTube, on Twitter, and I appreciate the community. If you want to be a part of this interactive community, again, like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell for 100% free Texas Tech content all year long right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. And as always, stay safe and Reckham Tech.